Go to work. Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday in the Riv, and I'll tell you, we got a lot of things to talk about. And
Just a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit.
a little, and
And a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little
and
bit
a
more.
lot about corruption. I can tell you that
Yeah,
much.
no question about it.
A lot of bullshit and a lot of corruption. But let me get. Oh God, I get so many emails. I got to get back to the weekend flush. Yeah, CJ, you're doing pretty well. Because actually, I think that Winston Churchill had a crystal ball, and he was seeing the Fall River with the Coogan administration, because you opened up with the quote, "A lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to get its pants on." That's from Winston Churchill. And that is so true. But lies abound in Fall River. Lies and half truths, which are half lies and half bullshit. And then the closing quote it talks about lies. And there's so many lies in this administration. A single lie destroys a whole reputation of integrity. Ballastar Gratian. Well, both of those quotes are dead on accurate. Winston Churchill was a brilliant guy. He kept Britain together through World War II. But it gets down again to integrity, truthfulness, and accountability. And there is none in the city of Fall River. I'm going to start by talking about what's happening in the school department, because it segues into something that we just received. We'll be dealing with it more on Wednesday. But, okay. This is a picture of the guy that the maintenance director for 4 years at Durfee, who was in the news. Now, we have some information about this guy that is really, really disturbing and staggering. This guy has been there for 4 years. I believe he's 71 years old. I have to go back and look at the arrest report, but he's in his 70s.
He's
so he's
71.
Been working for the city for 4 years, and this year's budget, he is budgeted at $91,500. Now, the problem is that with that picture from one of our sources, he used to work for E&E Systems, a company that's been around the school department for years. And they are supposed to be taking care of our air conditioning and heating systems. So we all know, I have the pictures, I've showed you the pictures 1,000 times, of the ducks. They're supposedly paying this company $200,000 a year to do this. Where's the school committee? Where's the accountability? That means they were around when Paul Coogan was still in the school department. He doesn't know these people have not been doing their job. There's the ducks. There's the ducks. $200,000 a year to allow ducks to get this bad. By this guy, who was suspended in 2012 and should have been fired. I think we should have a full investigation. The FBI should be called in to do an investigation. This guy was a very close friend, allegedly, of Ken Pacheco, and obviously he knew him very well because he worked for the company that Ken Pacheco kept on the payroll, in spite of the fact they weren't doing the job. They should have immediately been terminated after the first incident of mold. But no! They were not terminated. Kenny didn't have to go out for a bid for anything. He just gives it to his friends. And he gave his friend a $90,000 a year part-time job for him after he retired, and gets a pension from the company that we're still paying. And we have another problem with mold. Of course, they've tamped that down. We're not hearing a lot about it because, again, our school committee, absent the two people who asked questions and are always stifled, we don't know. We don't know anything. Coogan is well aware of this. When Coogan was working at Durfee, this company was there. He gave this guy a pay raise. And thank heavens Corey is not running again. He's a disgrace. Throwing bouquets at this guy who's been nothing but a scam artist and a crooked city employee since he was put in power. On the city side,
I heard today from a reliable source, unconfirmed, that it is an allegation that Ken Pacheco may be subcontracting work from city contractors to his own company.
Oh, that's a biggie.
So I said, are you sure about that? And they said, yes, I'm sure. I said, can you get me some evidence? I'll see what I can do. You see, because technically, there wouldn't be a paper trail between the school department and Ken Pacheco. It would be between the school department and the contractor. And then the contractor to Ken Pacheco. Because Ken Pacheco has his own contracting business. Now, again, this is an allegation.
But should be investigated.
Should be investigated as soon as they can.
But then again, CJ, that begs the question, how can we ever find anything in the city of Fall River? Because Ken Pacheco, well, after he got through basking in the literal monsoon of compliments he got, after he admitted he didn't go out for bid.
Right.
That's statutorily required.
Right.
Oh, look, it just had to be done. Don't worry about it. Let me take care of it. Let me take care of my friends. That's what he's saying. Because we see this guy who's got a $90,000 job, while the people of Fall River, and an individual in Fall River, that's nearly 3 times the median income of the average citizen of Fall River. While your taxes go up, while your fees go up, while everything you got, you die, you're getting killed here. I just got my tax bill today in the mailbox. So I haven't even opened it yet. I haven't
opened mine.
I got to get the mailbox before I open it before I start throwing up.
I want a Valium before I open mine.
But talk about no accountability. Not only no accountability, they commend these people. No bid contracts, no bid this. I don't know. I know what a 22. I know who's responsible for the 22 windows, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm not fired. I stay on a job and I get promoted and I get shifted over to the school department and get another pay raise. And I don't take bids over there. And I get, again, accolades. And this city is chaos. We need the FBI in here. And now this was dropped off to me by someone. This is, I guess, partially, it's the Herald. This Herald News article, which is BS about why the cost is why the cost, which all it is telling you how incompetent and how little accountability the city of Fall River has kept on all these contracts. There's notes in here from people saying, well, if they would have stayed with Republic, we would have saved millions of dollars. They would have. Well, why wasn't there a decision on this? But here's one of the ones that are really from this guy to show how corrupt this is. Now we know that it appears that Kenny Pacheco is taking care of his friends that he gives these contracts to, and he's subcontracting to people. Then he does them another favor. Who knows how many other jobs? $91,000 job. I think he made pretty good money from that company that's been working for this city for God knows how many years without doing their job, by the way. They're in charge of that, okay?
Because remember, we had to hire another company to get rid of the mold. That was an open contract.
Listen to this joke. Meetings that involved Olivera, Thomas, Mayor Paul Coogan, former city administrator Sid Akins, this is from the Herald News, Chief Financial Officer Bridget, and later interim CFO Emily.
I can never say her name either.
Arpke. I don't like to mispronounce names. It's Arpke. Somebody please, if she can tell me how to. I don't like people mispronouncing my name. And Charlie Denmead, the director of community maintenance, Joe Kennedy, and occasionally a corporation counsel, Alan Rumsey. A question of how many tons was disposed of was attempted to be answered. Then this isn't a quote. Tonnage drives disposal. No kidding. What a genius thing from Thomas. Then there's another quote. We had assumed wrongfully so, apparently, that when we cut commercial curbside collection, tonnage would drop. It hasn't. Unquote. You don't make assumptions like that. You don't make assumptions like that. We're talking about the taxpayer money being spent for this trash pickup. And I showed you on the last show the law that prohibits you from trying to make up numbers and make assumptions. It says you have to look at those numbers and have real numbers. You cannot make assumptions. Everything they do is illegal. And this whole thing is nothing more than a puff piece to try to say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. You're right. You know why we can't do anything about it? Because we do not hold the mayor, the council, the school committee, or any other elected official to their fiduciary obligation of accountability and their duty to represent us. This shit's been going on forever. Oh, we had a meeting on it. We assume this and we assume that. Now, you're not assume. Tell me how much you're picking up. Why wasn't somebody know it? Oh, you assumed it was going to drop. Then you found out, it didn't drop. That means they picked it up for how long without you knowing that they were not picking up less? Nobody asked them a question. You just pay them? Like you paid this guy that we're paying $91,000 to walk around a school department after he retires from the company that gets $200,000 for not maintaining our heating and air conditioning? Is this what the hell you do to the city? This is what you do to the taxpayers? This is insane. Absolutely insane. We need a damn federal investigation in this city. Half of these people should be going to jail. Not just not get elected. They should be going to jail for malfeasance on the part of a public official. Yeah, when does it? Yeah, you're right, Judge. It's a joke. And Annalisa says, when does the revolt start? Well, it started with us about 15 years ago when we started this show. We keep yelling, we keep complaining, and we keep telling we ran one recall, and it was successful. And well, that's the problem with most people. You guys are great. You tune in, you listen, you get outraged, and then you go and vote, hopefully. I'm assuming that. I shouldn't assume anything, but I can assume that because you guys are really into it. And this is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy town. This is so corrupt. I've never seen anything like it. This is nuts. And now what is the mayor's response to all this controversy? No information. Oh, he was on the radio today. Said, I'm working on that stuff at the school department with this guy. Well, why don't you ask how you hire a 67 or 68-year-old guy for a $90,000 a year job? He's not going to be in there to implement any kind of change. He's going to put his feet up and collect a 91. He's budgeted this year for 91,500. He's going to collect his fat paycheck and his retirement check and go home to wherever he lives. And I'll bet he doesn't live in Fall River. We have to find that out. I'll bet he doesn't live in Fall River. And he's going to go home. And he got that job from the guy who he was working with that gave him the $200,000 contract. I mean, this is just it's beyond comprehension what's going on in this city, and nobody wants to. Yeah, we got Michelle Dion. There's a comment about Michelle Dion. But Linda, there's one in here. It's a myth, she's tired of talking about trash. Well, yeah, that's a good excuse. You're a city councilor. You were elected to watch the taxpayer money, and you've been watching it go down a sewer since we got this trash contract. And now, because we're even paying more than we should, your response is, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Just keep paying, taxpayer. I don't know. How can you vote for these people? How can you vote for them? They just don't give a damn. And what's the mayor's response? I started that sentence a while ago. I haven't forgotten it yet. You know what his response is? He's got some people not running, his associates. Like, I love anybody the mayor appoints to any job, no matter how much money they waste and no matter how many laws they violate. Tommy Corey. And I love the mayor, Mimi Larrabee. I'll vote for anything. Gas chambers in City Hall, the guillotine off with their heads any way you want. Attack your don't let the other councilors speak. Just suppress their questions rather than do your job and ask the same questions. No. And the mayor has got to be careful, people, in this election. There are people running who are just like Mimi Larrabee and Tommy Corey. CJ, put up the picture of one of them that's running.
Sure.
And explain it to our viewers.
This is Tim McCoy. It is alleged that the mayor approached Mr. McCoy to take out papers to run for school committee because he did not want to give up his power on the school committee. Tell me that's not dictatorial. And look at this guy. He's asleep here. Can you imagine him on the school committee? He'd be asleep there.
Well, I mean, he's asleep. I want to see the 8 Big Macs that he ate before he started drinking that bottle of water and he passed out. He had to take a nap. He ate so much. His body just shut down and he went to sleep in the middle of a meeting.
Yeah.
So this is what you want to get. This is a guy, remember, that came over as an interim city administrator?
Yep.
And he bounces back and forth between the city and the housing authority. He was the purchasing. Remember the purchasing agent? Wasn't he a purchasing agent?
Yes,
too?
he was.
He's bounced around to every job that Coogan could give him so he could collect a paycheck. Just like this guy with the 91 grand. Shut your mouth. Let the buildings go to shit. Let the people get polluted with mold in the schools and take your $200,000, go home, and then when you retire and you're sick, you're nearly 70, we're gonna hire you and give you 90 grand. Come back, have a party with the crew. We're just gonna bend the taxpayer over.
Now, I'm not saying this is happening. But it wouldn't surprise me if somebody was pulling a Jen Andrade. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, it's been done before.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a valid question. How many kickbacks are they giving there?
Right. Colin Dice is getting ready for a meeting at 6 o'clock that I and Chip have been asked to attend, and I will be attending.
I will try, but I've got some things, unfortunately. But the fact is, how do you slash salaries, Annalise? It's up to the school committee or the city council, obviously.
That's right.
And depending on what we're talking about, in the case of this guy, I want to know how he got hired. Was there
facilities manager?
Yeah. Well, was there a bidding process for people who were in the departments already? Was there a search? No. This guy worked with a contract that obviously nobody enforced, because I'm sure that contract actually had the fact that they actually had to maintain our heating and air conditioning units. And then when we had that mold issue, which we have again, it was never really abated without a contract abatement, without a bid process abatement, that again, our poster child for corruption in a city official, our poster child said, oh, it had to be done, so I just went out and did it. That means I just went out and got my friends who I'm paying 200 grand to do it, to find out and try to say they abated it, and they didn't abate it again. Let's find out who's connected to who that did all this. This is why I think the FBI should be here. Channel 12 News investigative reporters should be down here. This is an absolute catastrophe. I have never seen this city in such a corrupt mess. Nobody knows what's going on. I mean, now we know that this guy was there. I didn't know. You know, fortunately, our sources told us this guy's been working for a very long time. He's a friend of his. We got the information late, and now we find out that Coogan is now putting all these people up to try to replace his other bobbleheads because he's worried about losing the school committee. So let's go out and do your homework.
He's making the assumption he's won the mayor.
And we have another
city, had an election.
And we have another school committee candidate again that has a massive conflict of interest. And you have that picture too, don't you, CJ?
Are you talking this one?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Gloria Sadler right next to Paul Coogan. Currently, Gloria Sadler serves as the Flint neighborhood liaison, or whatever her title may be, for the Flint neighborhood under CDA. Now, the woman standing on the side of her is her daughter. Her daughter-in-law is a family member. The woman just got $20,000 from the city. Now, I'm not sure who awarded that, but it looks a little like there might be a conflict of interest.
And isn't she running for office?
And she's running for school committee.
Yes.
Because obviously she's so far up Paul's ass. Because remember, she's been moved from several jobs over the past couple of years.
And that job she's got now with CDA, that's a paying job too. That's not a volunteer job.
That's right.
So, like I said, you know, this is like inbred Jed. You know, I know that Patrick's probably watching down in where is he? Alabama or Mississippi? Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Okay, he's down in Bama. So we all know this is getting like Bama. You know what the justice of the peace has always gets a question at the end of the wedding down there. It says, you know, if we get divorced,
who's that works for the housing authority? You talking about Tim McCoy? We know. We already talked about that.
Yeah. And he doesn't work for the housing authority. He works for Paul Coogan. Let's be perfectly clear about that. You can list the jobs that Tim McCoy has received. You know, he was interim or temporary city administrator. He was a purchasing agent. He was a partridge in a pear tree. He was everything, and I like the work ethic he had. Can you show us his work ethic again, CJ? I love that picture.
And this is him in the middle of a meeting.
I want to see how many Big Macs it took to make him pass out. His body shut down. He couldn't stay awake anymore. His body had to shut down to digest all that food. He went, "That's it. I'm checking out."
And it wasn't turkey burgers.
It definitely wasn't turkey burgers. But I'll tell you, this is crazy. I mean, we got the same olds, and nobody says anything about it. Where's the council? Where's the council? Where are they questioning? Where's the school committee? I know Colin is working. Yeah, oh, absolutely. I have no doubt that those allegations are based in that statement is based in fact, Nelson, because we know that whenever we get complaints, nobody hears about them.
And the worst part about it is, we send those complaints on to people like Colin. And you know what the mayor does? There's no sexual problems in the school department. None. There's no rapes. There's no sexual harassment. None of that goes on. As a matter of fact,
there's nobody looking for little boys in Brockton.
That's right. As a matter of fact,
that's a nice little.
Our human resources person says that there are no violations that they can follow up on.
Now, you're going to have to put more burgers, more fries, more pizza, and more hot dogs in that thing. That's not enough. That doesn't even do him justice. Taking a look at that picture, he needs a whole whole bunch of burgers. Well, they've passed out.
I remember when the city council got a pizza delivery.
I'm going to tell you, Jeff, we may have had a few people pass out from watching the council meeting because they were overwhelmed. There you go. I love that one. There you go. Tim, lunch. It's lunchtime, Timmy. You got to have fun to keep from crying. I mean, it's crazy. We assume. I'm getting back to that. We assume thing. We assumed incorrectly and built-in liquidations. Thomas, we had assumed wrongfully so. Well, we assumed. Well, I guess you can't assume. No matter what the law says, you can't. We've got the laws. We had the law that says you've got to look at the numbers, and they have no ability. This city is in such violation. That's why when you say forensic audit, everybody in the council, everybody in public office, their head bursts into flames because they will all be easily prosecuted for malfeasance on the part of a public official and for corruption. I mean, I don't know. I think that Colin should stand up and get seconded by Kevin or vice versa and demand an investigation of how this guy was hired, the process by which this guy, who's been working for this company, was hired, how many other people were even looked at, and also how long his company has been getting paid $200,000 a year to do something they haven't done, and why wasn't it questioned? This is crazy.
We've been saying that for 15 years, if not longer.
Yeah, no, you're right. You can't, you
bitch, piss, and moan. But when you go to the polls, you vote for the same people. Because she fixed my my sidewalk. She fixed the pothole. She got my trash picked up. That's doing their job.
Yeah.
Now, if they get your tax bill abated, hey, you're own big time.
Or you get a lower tax bill like our city administrator did with Kathy Ann.
That's right.
Remember, and a few other people they found were getting lower bills than anybody around them. And this is the whole problem. Well, George, if Colin asks questions, I don't even half the time they won't let him ask any questions. I mean,
That's
Coogan
right.
again.
Coogan tells him to shut up.
Yeah, they tell him to shut up. He's an elected official. Well,
I'll tell you right now. I will tell you right now, Annalise. I don't trust the election system in Fall River as far as I can throw it. Especially when Carlos Caesar had 476 or 456, something like that, signatures turned in, and only 301 got certified. And then he's told, quote, if I were you, I would get another sheet of signatures. Because when, not if, when they challenge your signatures, you won't appear on the ballot. Tell me
Well, you know that they're already looking at, because remember at our recall, we turned in a petition that was supposed to be in the election, and it would never be seen. And people who signed that petition were getting threatening phone calls from the administration at the time, the day that they signed it, and we turned it in.
That's right.
So is there corruption, Annalise? I believe there is. Is there collusion? For somebody to say that those signatures, they got 301 certified, 301, that should be over. You can't challenge it anymore. They were certified. But what's going to happen is if they're that close, they're going to try to get them off the ballot. Paul doesn't want anybody to run against him. He wants to be. He
doesn't want anyone of consequence. Say it correctly. Doesn't want anyone of consequence to run against him.
He wants to be anointed permanent dictator, the grand wizard of the CCC, the Coogan, who negotiated contracts, all three of them with the same name. You'd have to look at the first name when he signed that contract. Let me see. The mayor signed it, Coogan. The guy, the HR, Coogan. The guy from the union. Oh no, he didn't sign it. He probably had their bargaining committee sign it, even though he negotiated it, but he was involved in it. So I mean the depth of the complete. The complete disregard for the law is just incredible in this city. Nobody gives it. Nobody gives. And then Coogan makes statements like he was supposedly on We Suck at Radio today saying, I'm on that in the school. You were on it? Were you on Malone? You weren't on Malone. And I read a post from someone that said, they keep saying there's no policy. And they said, well, there is a policy. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Good one. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe the Cuckoo clan. That's it. They're all cuckoo. But the thing is, they were talking about them saying there's no policy. There's been a policy in place, and there was a policy in place, and we said it on this show, CJ.
That's right.
That there was a policy in place that could have prosecuted and suspended him under. When that happened, and Coogan knows it, and they all knew it. And they said, no, there isn't a policy. Well, there is. And I talked to a very high-ranking city official that says that sexual harassment policy is still there in the city of Fall River. It's not in some desk, and they actually do review it sometime. So somebody's reviewing it, but we don't review it when we actually have a sexual harassment incident. We forget about it. These people are so corrupt. If they're your friends, and we have a lot of things a lot of things we have to question. And I know we got a lot of calls, and before I do, I got to I got to divert a little bit, and let's keep in our thoughts the families of those firefighters in Idaho that were ambushed and uh, and killed because I remember in the 70s they were shooting at firefighters all over the country. Detroit, New Bedford. We didn't get shot at. We got bricks thrown at us and bottles thrown at us and stuff like that. But fortunately,
The
in
least
Fall
they could have done
River,
was throw you some full bottles of beer.
yeah, they threw bottles and bricks at us and everything else while they were burning places down and putting tires over the hydrants so we couldn't hook in the. But those firefighters, obviously went there to do their job, and they were ambushed by a coward who supposedly was acting alone and then took his own life. But I have to mention that. And then there's also another question, since we're talking about public safety. Yeah, you're right. You're right. We got some questions, and I will be perfectly truthful. I don't have an answer. It's not our job to ask that question. I think it's the city official's job. Uh, Somebody asked why John Perry got a police escort for his funeral. Now we sympathize with his passing. We don't want to see anybody pass, and I really didn't have any dealings with him. So I mean, I knew who he was. He knew who I was. Uh, I mean, I have no animus toward him, but I question why he had a police escort. Uh, because that's normally restricted for dignitaries or line of duty. Like when we had line of duty deaths, I had 5 line of duty deaths that I had to attend in Fall River while I was a president. We lost 5 men in the line of duty in the city of Fall River while I was on a job. And I used to go to line of duty deaths all over the country, all over Massachusetts for police and fire. And we had some police deaths. They have obviously police escorts. But somebody asked me, well, why did somebody who the city fired get a police escort? And frankly, I will be perfectly frank. I have no idea. I don't know about you, CJ. I have no idea.
I have no idea either.
Five police cars at North Park right now.
Oh, and for you people out there who have been complaining that you cannot listen to Fall River Police Department radio calls anymore, it's nothing new. They announced it. They said it was going to happen. They switched to a digital frequency. You need to get a new scanner. The old scanners will not work. You need to get a new scanner. I think the cheapest digital police scanner I found was $349. They're not cheap. So if it's a hobby that you like and you're interested in following, I would go to Amazon and get a new scanner.
Yeah, and they also periodically change frequencies. They did it.
Right.
So, and they have more than one channel. Of course, they got a tactical channel that you can't get on. So, I mean, they have to have that. So, they don't need a lot of traffic. But like I said, I mean, just the city's just like all we have in 6 years, all we've had in the Coogan administration are questions, none of which have ever been answered. Why didn't we get the transparency he promised? Why didn't we get the tax break he promised? Why didn't we have transparency with Malone? Why didn't we have transparency with John Perry? Why don't we do we have transparency with the head of security that was out for a year? Why don't we have transparency for anything? Why didn't we even know that this guy was working in the Fall River school system after working for a company? And how was he hired? How was he hired? $300. What for the scanner? Well, I guess so. Digital Digitals aren't cheap, you know. Good ones aren't cheap. They don't use smoke signals anymore, David. Like the old days, you could read the smoke signals. Everybody could read them. There was no security on those channels. But I mean, what's going on here with this? And we're paying for it. Let's not forget that basic, basic fact. We're paying an extra $2 million for health care, which we shouldn't be paying because they admitted they should have the money. We've already given them that money. Yet they spent it all, and we get to give them. It's like somebody saying, let me borrow some money to fix up my house, and then they don't fix up their house, and they say, can I have another loan to fix up my house? You think the bank's going to give them a loan? Oh. No, they're not going to give them a loan. And they're not going to accept, I assume. When you go to a bank and you say, I want a mortgage, they say, well, how much money do you make? Well, I make like $28,000 a year. Well, you can't buy a $500,000 house. We're not going to give you a mortgage. Say, well, I'm assuming that I'm going to hit a scratch ticket. I'm assuming I'm going to hit the lottery. You know what the bank says? See you later. Have a nice day. You're not getting a loan. You're out of here. You're out of here. But the city of Fall River can do it because they know that they never run out of money. They can waste our money as long as we allow them to waste it. As long as we allow them to double dip, and it's a very long complaint, but I'm writing a very long complaint about this to everybody, and we're going to ask some people to sign on. I'm not going to send it as an individual complaint. The Citizens Alliance for Accountability in Government will send that complaint to the Attorney General, to DOR, and to everybody else, and to our state reps who will ignore it because they're with.
As a matter of fact, if you send it to our state reps,
yeah,
they're going to do everything possible to get a hold of these departments to squash it.
That's right.
And I can think of one right off the top of my head from the North End.
Yes. Well, they can try to squash it all they want, but then what we do is maybe we get 40 or 50 people to go up to Boston and sit in the Attorney General Maura Healey's office until we're heard. I want an explanation why I can give you case law. I can give you a legal foundation why what they're doing is illegal, it's malfeasant. And how can you allow them to demand payment for us on debts that we have already paid for? Now, Durfee, you can say, well, you never paid that debt. And why didn't we pay that debt? Because Paul Coogan lied about that debt.
That's
CJ
right.
and I listened to him lie at every single neighborhood meeting. Don't worry, by the time that debt comes due, you don't ever have to worry about it. Well, guess what, pal? We're worrying about it. And you know what Paul's going to say now? I'm not really good with numbers. I just lied my ass off. I just made you all feel good and vote for it. Don't worry. I'm telling you the truth. Truthful Paul. I'm transparent. I'll obey the law. I'm going to give you a tax break. Don't worry about it. The check's in the mail. Oh, yeah. Okay. That's Paul Coogan.
See, but the problem isn't so much that he lied, which we know he did. He does all the time. The problem is the voters heard new school, got to get it for the kids. They pulled a Brad Kilby. New school, got to get it for the kids. Let's make it happen. Okay? They didn't hear the fact that they're responsible for this debt for 30 years. 30 years. You're responsible for this debt. So for 30 years, you're going to be paying for it. For 30 years, your children are going to be paying for it. And what did you get from it? A failing school system, sexual abuse, sexual harassment. That's what happened. So it doesn't get any better.
No, you're right. Yeah, but you're right. But I used to say some of the most everybody in Tammany Hall all kissed the Bonnie Stone. Actually, I think Paul swallowed it.
Yeah,
It's in his intestinal tract. He just can't help himself.
can't pass
Every
it.
everything else is it's all BS. Everything he says is BS. It's just we're gonna the Blarney. Let's give everybody the Blarney. Oh, don't worry about it. I'm gonna be a real cool mayor. I'm gonna be nice, and I'm gonna be. I'm just here for one term to kind of stabilize the city, and that's all I'm here for. Oh, wait a minute. Geez, I can give everybody I ever knew, everybody's friends and everybody's extended friends, their nice fat job. I'll let Kenny give out his $90,000 a year jobs. I'll give everything. And yeah, yeah, you're right. He's been one his whole life. He never earned a job in his life. All he says he's earned the mayoral job. Yeah, he got elected. You got to grudgingly you've got to say that. But why did he get elected? He got elected because people don't vote. The first term, I can say, okay, he was running against somebody that was having a lot of problems uh, with the criminal justice system. He was the only fundamental candidate in that election. And he promised to be a one-term mayor and just be there as a stabilizing influence. And you said, okay, this guy couldn't even be a school principal, so he's going to be a mayor for 1 year. But we even kind of said that wasn't accurate because on this show, remember we said that Cliff Ponte had already stabilized the city when he was acting
Yes.
mayor?
Yes.
Said that. Just in case you don't think that we weren't, we're trying to make revisionist history. If you go back and watch our shows, and they're still there, we said that he wasn't taking over a city in chaos. And frankly, the city was not in that much financial chaos. It may have had a black eye from what the city mayor had done personally, but the city was running better then. Cliff didn't really have to do a lot. He just came down and said, "Okay, now I'm the mayor. We don't have this guy. There's no criminal charges against me," and that was fine. But it's just crazy. And we get 12,000, 13,000, 14,000 people, and we got 50,000 voters. We got over 50,000 voters, and but like I said, it gets back down to what we always say, and we're not taking credit for that one. Teddy Roosevelt, my main man, my favorite president of all time, said, the Rome was destroyed when the citizens of Rome stopped voting, and they allowed their politicians to run their government, and they destroyed the country. And you don't vote these people out. And like I say, Coogan has got people. He's not the brightest bulb in the room. He's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But he's got people with him that have got a lot of money, and they're not dumb. They are, yeah, right. And he is already lining up people to take the place of anybody he may lose on that school committee. He does not want to see people who are running for school committee that are going to change the complexion of the school committee and actually debate and advocate for the people of Fall River. Now, off the top of my head, I'm going to have to see what they're doing, but I have to look at the candidates. But I know obviously Kevin Aguirre and Colin Byers are doing that now. So now we have to look at the other people, and I know that one of the former applicants for superintendent of schools, who was eminently qualified, I believe, Riley,
Anna Riley.
Ann Riley, yeah, she's running, and I know that she has a tremendous educational background, and she is, you know, obviously you're not going to BS her about the inner workings of these programs in a school. She was a superintendent of schools in another
And she
community.
was a candidate for Fall River.
Yeah, and she was a candidate, and of course, as soon as they found out she was qualified, they said she's out of the running.
As a matter of fact, the teachers supported the appointment of Ann Riley as superintendent.
Yeah,
But Paul wanted Tracy Curley, who I don't think is qualified.
but yeah, heaven forbid the school teachers actually want somebody who was. Oh yeah, David's reminding us of another Coogan lie. Lied about his wife's accident. Oh, we remember, David. Actually, we read the police report on our show that showed he lied. Remember that one, CJ?
Yes, I do.
Yep, you're right. He lied about that too. That shows that.
And that started the entire downfall of BCC's station.
Yep.
When they were bought and paid for by the Coogan administration.
Well, they got bought cheap, $100,000, cheapies.
Yeah.
But again, what are they filled with? They're filled with political appointees who got the job because they know somebody or because they fit in some designated woke box, and they check all the boxes, which is a problem.
Well, I hate to do this because the show's getting more interesting, but I have a 6:00 school committee meeting I have to attend. So I will be there. And I'm telling you now, my voice will be heard. I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politics accountable. I know I do. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Have a great day.